All right, week 49, almost there for the launch. Just a couple more days, but of course we still got tons and tons of demos. It's funny, we're talking about like, oh, what should we demo this week? And oh, we already demoed this, and we go look it up, and it's like that was 2 weeks ago, and it feels like it was 3 years ago. So many things happening. But I'm going to go ahead and jump in and just show a couple things. Some of them are pretty cool. Share my screen here. Get going. Boom, boom, boom. All right. You see my screen? Yeah, everybody? Okay, good. Okay. So everything that we're doing in Agentuity, of course, we say it's a cloud for agents. And when we say that, there's the word in the English language means a bunch of different things, but we literally mean it's for the agents to use, not just for them to live on, right, and to be deployed on. So we even do that on the onboarding part. So of course, if you click create a project, but also first-time users, it comes with a really cool onboarding screen. And you'll see here, there's the agent way, the human way, and the quick way. So this is a really nice onboarding thing. So if you click the agent way and you click copy agent instructions, you'll literally get a prompt that you drop into Cursor, Cloud Code, or OpenCode, or whatever. And you drop it in there, and it'll have the agent install the CLI, onboard, create a project, do all the typical things that like onboarding stuff, actually, let me go back. The human way, like this, where it's like, oh, we're going to install the script, we're going to run Agentuity create, run Agentuity dev to get into the simulator workbench, and then deploy. So it's pretty cool. A neat way to do that. And it works really well. So that's the agent way. And then we also have the human way, of course. I kind of jokingly wanted to put it the old school way, but the boomer way. And then the third one is the quick way. And so this one's really cool because we're actually using sandboxes, which we talked about, I think, the last demo, to spin up a project, an Agentuity project in your org, and then deploy it. So it just works. So if I click on it and then click set up this project for me, what it does is it'll set up an environment, it'll go through, log in, create the project, and deploy it. So then you don't have to do it on your device. It'll just do it right here. And then you go to the project and boom, it's ready to go. And of course, we still are pushing users to do the agent way here because you still haven't installed the CLI. So even though you get a project, you can play around with it, you can view it. You can also hit copy here and drop in your coding agent, which is pretty cool. And then of course, because it's in a sandbox, you actually can download it. So this sandbox here, you can download the project that we generated, which is pretty cool too. All right, so that does it for onboarding. Now I want to talk about another thing, which is a plugin we have that comes out of and that plugin's for OpenCode. OpenCode is the really, really cool open source coding agent like Cloud Code or Codex or whatever. Uses pretty much any of the models you want to use. But their plugin system is great. So we're starting to build a lot of things on top of it, and we're using it internally, of course. So this plugin, what it does, actually, I'll just show in the SDK. I'm going to show you what the package looks like. Just let me put my screen up there. So the plugin, what it does is it installs a set of agents into OpenCode. So the lead, which is the orchestrator, I'll demo it here in a minute. The memory agent, which actually remembers your session and across sessions. So if you're working in a project, it actually uses Agentuity key value store and vector store and saves everything that happens there. And so the memory agent knows about that. And so, for example, real common thing in coding agents are the compaction cycle, where you run out of space, right? And it compacts everything. And a lot of times you forget, you lose stuff. Well, the memory agent's constantly saving things so that you won't lose it. So then the lead can go, hey, where were we at again? We just went through a compaction cycle. What were we working on? What was the important things, whatever. And it can go back and look at that stuff. So that's the memory agent. There's a planner agent. We have two different types of coding builders. So the lead will pass it off once the plan's ready. It'll pass it off and say, hey, go code this. And the senior builder is much more like the architect. It takes a long time. And then there's the faster one, which is just the normal builder. So anyway, that's the agents that come with OpenCode. But then on top of that, we have popular thing called the Ralph Wiggum loop, right? So it's the infinite loop, or the loop that can run for 50 iterations or 100 iterations. So that long running thing is there as well. So that'll kick off if you use certain keywords, or if the lead agent can tell that it's about to go into this really long thing, then it'll kick into this big long running and just kind of run for itself. I just built something that ran for half the night last night. I'm going to demo it in a minute. So anyway, we have that as well inside this plugin. And then we have a couple other cool things, like it'll spin up a bunch of background agents that are running separate OpenCode sessions and instances. And then if you're running in tmux, it'll spin them up in new windows and stuff so you can view them. So anyway, super useful. We're using it internally right now. And I mean, it's taken over all of my coding agent stuff. Like this is what I use for everything now. It's actually kind of fun because we can keep adding to it too. So there's a bunch of other stuff it does. I'm not going to spend a lot of time more into it. Let me just show you real quick an example. So if I just run OpenCode, and then you'll have here, there's a couple extra things like you can just run, you can spin up a sandbox right here and go, hey, spin up a sandbox and go do this stuff, and it'll do that, stuff the code in there and run it. And then the agents will automatically do a save in memory. It'll save that memory and key value vector, but you can force it with the / command called memory save. But the big one you want to do is either Agentuity Coder or Agentuity Cadence. And of course, if you use keywords like, hey, use Agentuity to whatever, it'll switch into these as well. I'm not going to do Cadence because that's the long running Ralph Wiggum loop. I don't need to do that. But Agentuity Coder, I can do that, and I can say, you know, build me really silly, that is extremely overarching about it a lot. The most over-architected fizzbuzz. Great. So anyway, so you'll notice it kicks off, and then you've got Agentuity Coder lead there on the bottom left. And we pick the models. You can override them in the config, but we pick the models best for the task. So like I mentioned, that senior builder, senior coder agent, that thing actually uses GPT-5 Codex 2 with the ultra reasoning, or whatever it's called. I forget what it's called, but the deep reasoning. That's why it takes a long time. Like it can take 30 minutes before it's done. So you notice here, it created the plan, the leader's working. The grand fizzbuzz enterprise architecture.
That's awesome.
Amazing. So it created the plan, and now it's going to delegate to the builder, and then it'll go through and it'll just spin up sub agents, delegate to the builder, and do what it needs to do, which is super cool. So super useful. Highly recommend using it, checking it out. It's just literally just run Agentuity AI OpenCode install, and it'll install that plugin right into OpenCode, and it's there ready to go. There's the builder going off. So if I click on it, you can see he's going and building. You can tell I didn't use a senior builder. It's like, we don't need a senior builder for fizzbuzz. Oh, that's funny. I kind of want to leave this running and see what it comes up with now. All right, I'm going to let that run in the background. And then another thing I mentioned, the tmux thing. So this is really cool. So check this out. If I'm in tmux, which now I'm in a tmux session, you can see this is like tmux up here at the top of the window here. And then I can be like, hey, coder, Agentuity Coder, spin up 6 background tasks to write a poem. So what it's going to do is it's going to spin up background sessions. So it's going to spin up 6 more OpenCode sessions and run those, not just sub-agents, but OpenCode sessions. There's a difference. So you can see them there. And look, it created a new window here. And these are all the other OpenCode instances running those things, which is, again, different than a sub-agent. It's pretty cool. So you can see it. So now the lead's waiting. Okay, it got everything back, and it goes, okay, here's what the 6 other OpenCode instances ran. So real powerful things coming. And this is just the start of it. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So now let's talk about Cadence mode, or Ralph Wiggum mode, but we call it Cadence, at least right now. That's the working title right now until we put some product pizzazz on it. So Cadence mode is this long-running thing coupled with the senior builder and this set of agents. What I did was last night I went to bed and I gave it a task, and I woke up to this really stinking awesome, amazing thing that I'm about to show you. So in the 90s, there was a game made by, what's the name of that company? Voxel Logic, I think is the name of it. That made called Comanche, Maximum Overkill, and then Delta Force. And they had this really cool technique back then to take a flat bitmap, basically a map, and they had an algorithm to create, using another image, to create the depth map. It was a really neat, kind of like the early first take of Minecraft looking type blocks. Voxel engine was what it was called. So I told Agentuity Coder to build that for me. I'm like, hey, I love this game. Here's some images. Here's the algorithm. I found the algorithm on GitHub and some of the old maps. I said, make this game. So then I went to bed, and then I woke up, and then this is what it made. So I'm going to show that off here. So I woke up to this whole thing. It made a settings screen, Comanche, whatever. So let's do free play. And I'm going to fly this Comanche helicopter. And let's go. Oh, good shot out here. Let's go shoot this. Yep. So this is pretty close to the game I used to play all the time. So then we go back, and then I can go into Delta Force mode, play that, free play. And oh, I forgot. I hit the wrong thing. Sorry. Delta Force mode, free play. And now I'm running around. Pretty cool, right? So it did all this last night. Amazing. I woke up to it.
So this was one shot.
Well, so
a one shot. You used our Cadence mode, and it kept working.
Yep, it worked like all night. And so what I did was there's more than one shot in that. Like I came to like 80% of this was done, and then for example, like you see the zoom here, the zoom was all messed up, and there were a couple things like that I had it fixed. And but the majority of it was done. And so what I did is when I went to bed, I was like, look, you should have everything you need to test it. You have Chrome dev server, you have this, you have this, you have this. And it spun up everything that I just showed you, Coder, Agentuity Coder, and it just worked.
And how did it test itself?
Yeah, it spun up Google Chrome, and it went, with the Chrome MCP server, it's able to like send commands to it, but it's also able to take screenshots and then test things out. So it did all of that. It built all that stuff by just testing these things out by itself or whatever. So it was kind of cool. I went back and like looked at the history as it was fumbling around. And even this thing, like the scope thing, you see how it's like zooming in? It did the wrong thing. It did like the scaling. And so it was just a small tweak. I was like, hey, I know what you're doing. You should just scale. This is Canvas. You should just scale this rather than try to do transforms on stuff. And it like as soon as I told it that, boom, it got that scope thing right. I mean, it's crazy. Pretty impressive. So a lot of fun.
Pretty incredible. I mean, the nice part, it's in a closed loop, so it can kind of like make changes. It can then run itself, take screenshots, and just over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So it can basically play its own game.
Yep, exactly. Which is what it was doing.
It's incredible, man.
So anyway, if I'm
future of
playing
software.
This, exactly. If I'm playing this instead of working, what's going on.
Well, you could play this while your coding agents build the software on the other screens on your TMUX terminal.
Exactly. Pretty cool. Okay, so let's go back to let's see how well the TMUX thing did. All right, how did it do? Overarching architected FizzBuzz. All right, so if I'm going to scroll back and just look through some stuff, so yeah, so this is the analysis, and then there's the builder, so it built it. So once it's done, there's the runner, which I just added this today. So the runner, the responsibility of the runner is to run, test, lint, that kind of stuff, because a lot of the coding agents, what they do is they do it all in context, and you just muddy up your context needlessly. So the runner does it all. So you'll see here, it ran type check and all that stuff, cool, without messing up the context, which is cool. Then there's a reviewer. So the reviewer subtask spun up and reviewed the whole bit of code. It's so funny how satirical elements, correlation IDs. Oh man, this is so funny. And then
a version of control container. Did you see that?
Yeah. Look at it. It's amazing.
Java guys would be really excited about that.
I love this.
even.
Over engineering, 11 out of 10. Exceeds
I
maximum.
love it. So good. It's actually funny.
I like this. This is the final comparison, 2,800 lines versus 3 lines of code. Oh my word, it's great. So, and then also let's see, yeah, the memory. So again, the memory agent will take the whole thing, and you'll see here it's running our KV CLI and it's saving it to FizzBuzz over engineering memory. And so it remembers all the decisions it made, single file, keep all the patterns, self-aware JS. It remembers all this stuff in a KV file, so that then if we were to come back to it later, or let's say again, it compacted 4 different times in this really long session, we can always go back to those KV memories, or it can, and pull it up, which is pretty cool. So you see it's remembering all this stuff and it's storing it in vector memory for it to pull up. And that's it.
It's awesome.
Cool. Super cool. All right, who's next?
I'm next. All right. So I worked on a hodgepodge of different things this week, just last 2 weeks. I'll show a few different things here. Let me start with public sandbox, or public snapshots rather. We launched sandboxes several weeks ago. We've talked about them a bunch. We're getting a lot of usage, which is really awesome. We built a bunch of stuff ourselves around this, which is really amazing. One of the things that kept coming up is you can basically take a runtime, let's say Claude or Bun, and you can then do a bunch of stuff, add a bunch of files, whatever. You can customize it with a snapshot. Then you can kind of run that snapshot over and over and over, and you can version the snapshot, et cetera. But one of the nice things we wanted to be able to offer is public snapshots, because by default, your snapshots are private. But what if we wanted to create like a public snapshot and share that snapshot and use it and kind of compose upon it? So we added that a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. So now we have a couple of public ones now that we've been using. So when Rick showed the getting started earlier, just sort of say, hey, I want to run a demo project and I don't want to download anything or install the CLI or anything. It's actually just running a sandbox with our demo project, which is really cool. And just starting it up in a sandbox so it's instantaneous when you launch it. And when you run, let's say a runtime, for example, or when you go into this demo project, you can see everything about it, where it's at, who created it, et cetera. And I can just click a button and then run the sandbox directly with everything on it. So that's pretty cool. The way you can also build it, I'll show you real quick. And we dog through this ourselves. You can sort of see we have an Agentuity sandbox YAML. So we borrowed some concepts from Docker, pretty basic. We've got whether it's public or not, which runtime you want to use. You can give it a name optionally in the description. You can give it a set of dependencies. This one doesn't need any third-party dependencies, but those will automatically get noted. You can give it optional files. In this case, I'm basically just taking everything in the demo project and I'm putting it into the folder. And then you can give it optional metadata or optional environment variables. And they'll also automatically pull from your global environment variables, which I'll demo in a few minutes, that you set up in Agentuity, which is really nice. So if you had some sort of Anthropic API key or a GitHub token or something like that, you can just set it at your org level. And then when your sandboxes launch, as long as you opt them in, you have to opt in the environment or the secret. It'll automatically then associate that when it launches that sandbox, which is really neat. So anyway, that's the public snapshots. The other thing, small minor detail that I worked on this week is I improved some of the gateway pages here to show a little bit more useful information, like what's your top model, some stats around your total tokens and costs, how much you're spending when you go through the gateway. Also made this a little bit more useful. Before we didn't have a ton of detail on it. So now for this AI gateway session, I can just jump right to the session and drill into it. I can see what the model and tokens for that specific session, and of course we had cost before, but you've got a little bit more per session context for the gateway, and you can of course jump straight to the agent as well. So just kind of made that a little bit more useful. There's a lot more we're going to do here, but just trying to make this screen a little bit more useful, which is helpful when I was going through and fixing a number of bugs on the data side. On the session side, also improved this week some improvements on sessions. We made a lot of improvements around how sessions are rendered and some of the data about sessions. We reworked some of the way the trace session kind of works and some of the visualizations around it. So now you can sort of see things like session start, you can see session end, and those are correctly laid out. This template project, you can sort of see here, it's got a set of evaluations. So you can now see like, oh, this evaluation ran, this translate ran the chat GPT You can sort of see it's using our gateway. You can see all the information about what came back from the gateway, from the LLM. But it also runs a couple of asynchronous things when it ends. So you can sort of see our base default template here runs this adversarial and language match evaluation. And you can now see it's a little bit better rendered. Before we didn't quite have it rendered quite right, but you can sort of see these run after your session. So they don't block or cause any latency. And you can sort of see that now. We also indicated that up here. So the latency itself took 3.4 seconds to run this API. Of course, almost all of that was in the LLM call here. And then it continued to run for another 3 seconds, which you can sort of see down here, roughly 3 seconds or a little bit over 3 seconds. Your session continued, but these all ran asynchronous. You can sort of see them over here. They kind of ran out of band. And then if you go in here, you can see they're running because they're doing a wait until. And you can sort of see the evaluation start call. Again, this one used OpenAI SDK. You can sort of see the model information over here to run. And then you can sort of see the actual gateway call, et cetera. So we try to expand a lot more detail. We also added this HTTP session, and we did a little bit better tracking around if you have like an error or something like that. So we try to make that a little bit more useful in the session detail spans. Let me show you the org wide. We added this a few weeks ago, but I don't think we've ever demoed. We added org level. So you've always been able to do project level environments and secrets, but we needed really kind of this concept of an org-wide environment variable or secrets, and you can have those as well. So if you wanted to create something like your Anthropic key, or maybe you have a GitHub token, like I said earlier, you can add those, and then those will automatically, for your agent projects, when we get deployed, those will automatically get added on the fly to any agent project. For sandboxes, you have to actually opt in, because sandboxes are obviously secure and trusted environments usually. So if you want to use them, you just have to kind of opt into them. And then one more thing I'm just getting ready to release. We did this new package, or a couple packages actually, that we're getting ready to merge here in a few minutes. I just worked on this today. We added a new Agentuity Postgres package and an Agentuity Drizzle package. And the reason why is because the default node Postgres, which this just basically wraps, so still underneath the cover is still node Postgres, the canonical Postgres library for node. It just adds some additional capabilities. It basically adds, for example, automatic reconnection and back off logic. It makes it compatible with BunSQL. So BunSQL also do automatic reconnects and things like that. Before, you would have to handle all those kind of lifecycle events and things like that. And so depending on where you're using this, if you're in a sandbox or in a runtime, this just automatically makes those things much, much more resilient. And then for the Drizzle package, we just kind of created a wrapper, which a lot of people now do, but we just kind of created a wrapper around Postgres, the Drizzle Postgres, to, again, add that kind of resiliency around it. So when you use Drizzle, and then of course we've switched the auth package to use this lower level package. So just getting ready to roll that out. And you can do a lot of control here on shutdown, and automatically go through and clean things up, et cetera. So just getting ready to roll that. And I believe that's everything I was going to demo. So next one is Bobby.
Yep. So this week I worked on a lot of billing, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about how we build some of our features and services on some core primitives. So just to back up for a second, the lowest level primitives in Agentuity are S3 and Postgres, and you could probably consider Sandbox as a close third. So let's start off in S3, for example. When you're on this S3 screen, you'll notice that we have this snapshot item right here, right? And you'll maybe be like, oh, what's this weird system manager bucket? So inside of this bucket, right, we have some files, and these are actually the snapshots that Rick and Jeff were just talking about. This is really nice because not only do we pull back the curtain for you, there's no magic going on here. You can see that snapshots are built on reliable infrastructure, like tried and true infrastructure. It's also agent native. So if hypothetically, if you were having a problem with your snapshot, you were wondering, is this zip file screwed up? Like, did I snapshot this container wrong? Your agent could go and pull down this zip file, unzip it, and figure out what's going on, look at our documentation, and try to debug the issue. Maybe even open an issue for us if there was something that was wrong. So I think that's something really cool about how we stack on top of these core primitives. Another situation where we're doing this is in Postgres, is on top of, where we stack on top of Postgres is queues, vector, and KV. So you can see these services over here on the left, right? These are just tables, right? Nothing special here. and we provide this out of the box. Again, you could go in here and debug what's going on. The last one is sandboxes, which we've already been over a little bit, but the quick start uses this. So if we pop over here, this button, like Rick pointed out, spins up a sandbox under the covers. Another feature that uses sandbox under the covers is the GitHub app. So if you come over here to archives, you'll see that if you install our Agentuity GitHub app, it kicks off a sandbox in your Agentuity org, right? So you could go in here and again debug what's going on. One other cool thing too is it's even more layered than that, because sandboxes actually end up using streams, right, to stream the logs out of your sandbox, right? And this is again built on top. Streams is built off of S3 and a couple of other things under the covers. So when you're going through Agentuity, you're going to see these resources with a special treatment, and that's what's going on. We're going to try to do a better job about communicating that over here in this screen. It'll come out very soon. I'll probably do it later today. One last benefit from this way of doing things is that your infrastructure then becomes portable, right? So you could take these base level primitives like Postgres and S3 and move them onto an on-prem scenario relatively easily. Whereas if it was some proprietary thing that we have, it would be much more difficult. So that's just a peek under the covers of what's going on. Hopefully that offers you some confidence in the infrastructure you're building your applications on. So I think we will shoot it over to Pedro, I believe, with an app he's building.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just a really simple, excuse me, simple app. Let me share my screen really quick. All right. Cool. Yeah. So anyway, just, the whole thing about dog food. So this is like an inventory app for like a warehouse. I have a friend that has like a warehouse full of fridges that he just sells. So like the truck comes in, they drop off a bunch of fridges and then customers just buy them. And they're using just a Excel spreadsheet for everything. And he asked me, hey, listen, can you make like an AI app to do all of this? And then I can talk to the database and know what's going on and just don't use Excel anymore because it's a big mess. So this app is actually really interesting. What it does is that you can create, quote, databases, which is essentially Postgres tables. And you can define like different types of columns here, and it'll dynamically create these database tables. And then you can just, start like adding rows here and or import via CSV. So this is just a little test that I was doing. And the interesting thing is that you can talk to it, which is what they wanted to do. So we have a little chat UI similar to ChatGPT, and you can talk to it. So how many fridges in my warehouse? Which one is the most popular? And I said, no, I mean, like, which model do I have the most is actually what I meant. And, you can say, what's the average price, for example. And this just is doing some simple SQL queries to the database, to the user-defined tables to get some answers. So anyway, it's just a way of testing our stuff in real time, always with the latest version of our SDK and libraries and stuff like that. So pretty cool. Oh, in all of this, I vibe coded using our coder. Honestly, I have not seen a line of code yet. So I may need to go and review, but it's actually working really, really well. So that's it. Parteek?
Yep. Thank you, Pedro. So one thing that I've been working on this week is updates to the Agentuity SDK Explorer. So this is sort of like the nitty gritty, but one thing that I did to update it is use the fun.build function to basically take all the run scripts and make them into optimized outputs. So, inline all the dependencies, really makes the snapshot that I'm using for the Explorer a lot leaner, and it makes the output a lot quicker. And so Jeff mentioned those public snapshots. We have one for the Explorer, and it just has those pre-bundled scripts, those run scripts in here. And you can see it's a fairly lean snapshot. And by run scripts, what I mean is, like, if you go to the Explorer into any of those demos, the code over here that actually runs in a sandbox is like that run script. And so that's one of the optimizations that I made, was using that bun.build function. And then the other thing that I did was make the sandboxes interactive. So if you're, going on the Explorer, using a bunch of different examples, we won't spin up a new sandbox every time. And so the way that I do that is by using the thread ID. And of course, threads on Agentuity, they sort of wrap sessions, right? So multiple requests all have the same thread ID. And so what we do with that is I just put that as a KV key, so key value key. And then, if it's not your first time using the Sandbox Explorer, within the TTL or the timeout, we'll go ahead and reuse that sandbox and do an execution in interactive mode. But of course, like if you're running this for the first time, we'll create a sandbox, an interactive sandbox. And you'll see that we pass it that snapshot as well for the public snapshot. So yeah, that's sort of the into the weeds of it. But if we head over to the Explorer, you'll notice that it'll make the experience of actually running some of this code a lot quicker than before. And we can take a look at the logs as well, and you'll see it's reusing the sandbox that it created initially over here. So a little bit of optimization. Again, if you're moving around using the sandbox in different ways on the Explorer, should just make that a bit of a better user experience for you. So we can see this one will not take too long to run and give you an output. Oh, there you go. There's the model arena showing different model outputs.
And did that just run 3 models?
Yeah. So it ran
crazy.
GPT-5 Nano, Anthropic, and then we have Grok to judge it. So yeah, it's a lot faster than before.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, last thing that I want to talk about is quick update on the changelogs. It's been a while since we've done one. We've been kind of, hard at work on V1 stuff, but it kind of goes over a lot of the things that we've covered today. So like the OpenCode plugin that Rick talked about, a lot of SDK improvements, stuff around CLI tooling that we've added as well. So, definitely give this a look if you want a place to summarize everything that we've done, or maybe your coding agents need some more information. So yeah, that's it for me.
All right, that was awesome. Wrap us up then.
But yeah, that's where you can find all that information. We're getting ready to launch V1, so keep an eye out for updates on our blog, on our YouTube. Join us on our Discord. We'll have updates there as well as we're building. And yeah, we're excited to be launching and excited for you all to work with V1. So, yeah.
Awesome. Great progress. See you, everybody.